Welcome to the October 5th PCR Coast Division virtual meetup. This week we are doing a kind of a topic really from what we just did. We just had our fall meet and we're going to do a little review of that. A bit of a talk about future clinics and volunteering because really do need to get some volunteer help. And then we'll just move in generally into coast modeling. So um, just we had a meet last Saturday at the or actually last Sunday at the SBHRS in Santa Clara. We had two clinics. Earl and Seth did a clinic, and the first clinic about essentially how they took an area on Seth's layout and rebuilt it and built some new buildings and followed the prototype and et cetera, et cetera. That was followed by Jesse, who's here, and Jesse did a clinic about a small railroad operating system and how he actually operates and runs and how that works. At the same time, Frank, who's also here, did a clinic in the back room, which is called the boardroom, that was a weathering clinic and a real opportunity for folks. We had about 5 or 6 people. So one of the cool things about that building is we can have these kind of small focus clinics in the back room. We had 2 layouts open in the afternoon. One of the comments had in the past is that, you know, we've had 6 or 7 layouts open, and if you try to go see them all because you think you need to, it ends up being a lot of driving. So this was 2 layouts. They were about really less than 10 minutes apart. So the total driving time was a half an hour to 40 minutes from where we were in the where we were at the SBHRS, which is in Santa Clara, to get over to the 2 layouts was probably a half an hour driving to get to both of them. So there was some real time to go spend time. And I thought it was great. When I was at Seth's for a while, there was a lot of discussion and people asking real questions, getting some in-depth discussion about, you know, the layout, the modeling, the operating scheme, you know, how different things work. So what I was really hoping we could do is get a little bit about discussion about what was good, what needed improvement, what would you add and change. So with that, I'll kind of just throw it open to everyone that's here and feel free to kick in.
Well, just to let you know why I didn't go is because I had to drive all the way to Modesto to buy a new car for my wife. So it had to be done that day.
Yeah, I guess that's a valid excuse. Is a valid excuse? We'll take a vote. We'll take a vote on that. Otherwise, you're banished, Larry.
Yeah. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, no, I fully understand. That's life. There are a lot of times that life intrudes. Um,
You know, I have 2 thoughts. I went down there. I had 3 thoughts. The last one was, boy, am I glad you didn't bring the pizza, because the sandwiches were really good. The
yeah,
sandwich pieces, the pizza's less than terrific. And the sandwiches actually showed up, but last time the pizzas never came.
well, they came, but they were very late. We got
They were
there
very
late.
late. Anyway,
It was tough.
I thought, in terms of your first point about the number of layouts open, that was pretty cool. They're layouts that I've seen already, but a couple, 2, 3 at the most is, I have an hour's drive back,
Right.
to the North Bay here, and it's so I think that was probably a good thing.
Yep.
In terms of the clinics, it's always a gem to listen to Earl and Seth, and I'm really sorry I didn't get to do the hands-on clinic. I was not I was not disappointed in my clinic, but I realized that the topic might not have enough interest in the group. Now, I was standing in for Dave, and I appreciated it. It was easy. I could pull it off the shelf, so to speak.
I'm actually on Zoom.
Ah, But I just sort of felt that, from my point of view, there aren't a lot of folks that showed up that were going to uh, put in an operating system or were lone wolf operators or that sort of stuff. There's a few, but not a lot. I gave something like that a long time ago at Sacramento. It was more involved and that sort of stuff. But there was a much bigger audience of people that had all sorts of levels. So that was my feeling. I think what my layout does or how to build something or things of that nature might have been more interesting for a meet than what I did, in terms of putting in a new operating system.
And so actually that brings up kind of one of my asks, which is actually on the next slide, which is, we have a room to do clinics in December. So would love to have a couple of proposals for clinics. If you did a clinic at a convention, would like to redo it, that would be great. If you got a new clinic, you thought about something that's topical, it doesn't have to be a full hour. Basically we have a room and we'll do some clinics in the morning until, from say 10 to 11:45 to 12. And then, 12 to 12:15, we'll have kind of lunch served. We'll do something similar for lunch. That is, by the way, my second real request is someone to please volunteer to get the food. It's a real challenge for me to do both. So I really need someone to volunteer to go to the subway and pick up the food. That's what we did at this one. We ordered it from a subway locally, and you have to order it ahead, and then you go over there and they make sure they get it all made up and then bring it back. And but that'll basically be the plan, the same plan we're going to do for Alameda for the auction. And then we'll do a business meeting at 12:15. That'll probably only take about 5 minutes, quite frankly, 5 or 10 minutes. There's not really much business to talk about. There's nothing really startling. I tend to talk about a lot of those things. We get them here. And then we'll start the auction about 12:25, 12:30 kind of thing. And hopefully the auction will be a couple of hours, 2.5 hours, maybe 3 at the most. So, and also we need auction volunteers. That's the other thing we really are going to need this time. One of the things I need to do is I have to call Bob and find out. Bob fell, and I want to see how he's doing. They had some serious challenges, so need to see how they're doing physically.
Which Bob? Which Bob?
Bob Ferguson.
Oh.
Yeah, Bob's. I didn't know he had hurt himself. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that was right. He called me and told me he wouldn't be able to be at the event last Sunday, and I need to call him back and see how he's doing. Yeah, so we're one of the things we're really going to need to do is get some folks to volunteer. We're going to try to do a test session ahead of time, probably up at the club in Walnut Creek, and set up the equipment and run it. But it'd be great if someone would volunteer to be the data entry person, so I could go back and work with Jesse and or Jer and reduce his load. And trying to run the back office, because it's without Bob being there necessarily, it's pretty overwhelming. So finding someone who's willing to sit down for 2.5 hours and basically enter prices into the computer. Anyway, sorry, that was a bit of a downer. So I guess that was it. Did anybody go to the virtual? Anybody that's here this week go to the virtual side of it last week? There weren't a lot of people there, it didn't look like.
Oh, I was on virtual.
So what was your thoughts, Ken? Was it worth doing it on the virtual?
Yes, it was. I enjoyed the Seth and clinic, and I to be honest with you, when I was thinking about the other clinic, I think I sort of zoned out. Sorry, Jesse.
Just don't answer the door in the next couple of days. Somebody's going to come and punch you.
Okay. Anyway, it was an interesting topic to me in only in a historical sense. I once did a full operating schema for my British layout of Padstow, where I had every train staged to go for a 24-hour period. And after that, I sort of gave up on operations. Let's see. Otherwise, yes, I would have loved to have been in a hands-on clinic. That was really the subject that was most interesting to me. And unfortunately, oh well, I couldn't drive that day.
Well, and that's one of the things. So, we're gonna probably shoot and need to close this with Larry and the folks is, my thought is probably towards the end of February, and I need to look at the dates because there's some great train shows. There's one in San Jose around that time, and there's one in Sacramento, and I want to make sure we don't do the same weekend as those. But the idea would be to have a similar event up at the Golden State Mile Railroad Museum. So we kind of do a North Bay event and do that in February. They only have one room, so we'll be limited to the 2 clinics there. A year from now, when we come back, my assumption, by the way, is we're going to try, as long as these clubs will support having us there, we'll probably just alternate those 2 for those 2 events every year. The late September event and the February event, and then we'll do the auctions in December and May, and then of course the convention is going to be in late March, early April. So that kind of, we kind of are about a month and a half away from that with our event beforehand, which is great if you're going to do a clinic at the convention and you want to do a dry run. At one of our events is a great place to do a dry run and a clinic for the convention.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the thought process. And then the other thing really would like to do is find, some additional, or think about which ones we'd like to revisit because there's interest, the kind of field trip things. So I'm probably going to put a list together, and I'll probably put a questionnaire out and send it out with one of the Coast Extras, and then we can talk about something about, which ones would you be willing to go to? So for example, the Trolley Museum, the California, what is it, Railroad Museum,
Western Railroad Museum.
the Western Railroad Museum. So Red just had an event up there. We could think about having an event up there. They have a picnic area. We could do something up there and have an event there. Would that be of interest? Would it be interesting? Would it be of interest to have some sort of a middle of the summer picnic event, for example?
They've got 3 new BART cars.
Yep. I mean, I guess that's a question. If we had an event like that, would people come to it? And should we have it? So, and then, so that's kind of one. Then the other question is, like Niles, we went to Niles as a group and we went to Niles during the convention. So I'm not really sure Niles is the place to go back to. I think it would be interesting for the coast to have a visit to Ardenwood, to the Carter brothers, do something similar to what we did at the convention, but do it for the division and the region for folks who want to do it on a Saturday, for example, and go into Ardenwood and be able to see everything and ride the train. I don't know if there are other places of interest. I mean, it would be interesting. I don't know if we have access to any places otherwise, like the trolley, the cable car museum up in San Francisco, or that kind of thing. I'm going to try to go back to the guy there was a BART guy. We were trying to get into there during the convention, see if maybe we can get into there as a trip to BART and go do a tour of their facilities. But anything that anybody can think about, an organization that you've got contact with that would be interesting, drop me an email, and then I'll probably put out a survey and say, which ones are of interest, because it's kind of both a topical interest, but it's also a distance travel interest, right? So are people from San Jose going to be willing to drive all the way up to the Western Railroad Museum? Because that's a bit of a drive.
It seems like a lot of the activities have either been an hour or two north of me. I'm in the Berkeley El Cerrito area, where I think there's a lot of people in the Berkeley North area, and it doesn't seem like we've had anything there in quite a long time. And it's more.
Well, we went to the Redwood Valley.
It's more central rather than a couple of hours north or a couple of hours south.
Yeah, we went to, well, one of the things we tried to do there was the Redwood Valley. I mean, so if you look at from a Berkeley perspective, we went to the Redwood Valley Railroad, which is in Berkeley. We went to Niles Canyon, which is, basically about as close as you can get to Berkeley. It's about 25 miles south.
Oh.
So, of the, and then actually we went to one visit we did was, the visit we did to the Golden State
Tilden
Railroad
Park,
Museum.
Joyce, Tilden Park.
Tilden Park, the one up at Tilden Park. We did a, so one of the things that you tried to do tours in places, like going to Roaring Camp. I agree. The problem with Roaring Camp and the Western Railroad Museum is they're way out there. What I'd love to do is find other things that are, on the peninsula or in the East Bay that are more central. But now, Niles Canyon is a great example. Ardenwood, the Carter brothers at Ardenwood, those guys are both in Fremont. They are about as central as we can get, I think, in that Fremont, Newark area. I don't know, if the BART, I think the BART facilities, as I understand, they're in San Leandro.
South Hayward.
South Hayward, yeah, in that area, yep. So, yeah, go ahead, Joyce.
You know that you're welcome to meet at my place anytime you want. I'm 5 minutes from the freeway in the Berkeley area, and it's kind of central, so you'd be welcome to meet there. I think my garden can hold about 80 people with seating.
Yeah, no, and that is another option, is to think about having a meet at somebody's house who has enough space. So that would be another option. So I guess one of the questions is, how many events do you guys think is the right number for us to have that's going to keep your interests versus being too many? My thought has always been, we have the 2 auction events, we have the North and South Bay events, so that's 4. And then we have, my thought was always around 3 other events. So kind of 3 of those, trying to find 3 other events to do during the year. So we'd have a total of about 7 events. So, a little bit more than 1 every 2 months.
Phil, I think that you do more than 2 of travel events or field trip type events a year. I don't think that we can sustain more than 2.
Just do 2. That's cool. Is 2 good? Is 2 a good number? Is everybody feel good about 2 of them?
Sounds good.
Okay, so that's kind of what we'll shoot to do. And like I said, I think the next one I'd like to do, and I'm gonna go ahead and talk to Jack and Jackie, is to see if we can set up to do a Carter Brothers visit at some point. That may be in the spring.
One of the events part of the event, which I found really a lot of fun, was when we all went as a group to the Railroad Museum, not in Sacramento, not this time, but the previous time when they opened the exhibit. And we all took the Amtrak train, and the same Amtrak train if we could. And then we all had lunch afterwards up there and then dispersed or whatever. And that was a fun event. The train ride was fun. The museum's always fun and that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not saying we do it again, but
Well,
You know,
yeah, we tried it, on August 3rd, we had that visit this year.
yeah, I know.
And it actually, we only got about 12 people, I think, showed up.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
so yeah, so that's why I'm wondering about repeating things, and I'm kind of
I
struggling with
wasn't
that.
thinking of it. I was just saying that type of
That
activity
type
was
of event
really,
was
yeah, where
exactly.
yeah, it was a whole day and there was a lot of organization there.
Mhm.
It,
12 to me
it-
seems like a lot. I think you did well with 12.
Mhm.
I think it's good to do that like every other year.
Mhm.
Every other year would be a good for a Sacramento. But I always think a Sacramento trip is a good idea. I mean, that's because I'm close to Martinez, but
Yeah, yeah. One of the purposes, of these meets is to get together, the camaraderie that we all share together. I think that's a big thing about it. And, if you repeat something, it's not that bad because some people just can't make it on a certain day, but if you repeat it, they might make it on the next day and you still might
Yeah.
have more people. So, I mean, I think that's the big thing. It's just us getting together.
Yep. No, I 100% agree, and that's why places in the center are great.
I
And
just want to add that it's becoming like August and September are weather-wise very difficult because
Yeah, go out to Sacramento today.
yeah, to go to Sacramento today would not
Hey,
be.
I don't have to go to Sacramento. I'm already in Antioch. That's bad enough.
Oh
yeah,
God, I'm
it's
sorry
bad.
about that.
Let me put it, the air conditioning here came on at 8:30. It's gonna be a warm day.
I'm in Berkeley. Air conditioning? What's that?
Yeah, I know. That's exactly. They said, actually, I saw an interesting thing on the news that said that the Bay Area, as a large metropolitan area, has the lowest penetration of air conditioning in the United States.
Yeah.
It's never hot here.
It's never been hot.
Except for a couple of weeks at the end of September and beginning of October.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of where we are right now,
Yeah.
at old Indian summer. Anyway,
Hey, Phil, you
so
mentioned going to the Golden State Model Railroad Museum in February. Is that correct?
yes, that was my thought. And so I
Okay.
need to get with you guys, and I was going to send you, and every time I'm away from the computer, I think I got to send an email and start that off and get a date picked.
Okay. Well,
I need,
I got a
I,
board meeting at 10 o'clock, so I'll bring it up.
oh, cool. I got to look at the dates, and see what dates we don't conflict with other stuff. But, I think it's pretty easy. We're, it's nice. I think it's cool for the guys that are in the club. They get to see a bunch of people that are knowledgeable, talk to them, et cetera. And by the way, and Frank doesn't quite know this, but so the PCR voted that we would fund the divisions some membership event money. So we're using that, and I kind of made a personal thought process. We made a little money off the convention that went into the coast divisions. Half of that goes to region, half of it goes to coast division. It'll probably be a little couple of grand, $1,500 or something like that. My thought process is we really don't need to increase our reserves. We have plenty of reserves. That what we should do is use that money over the next 4 years until the next convention, basically to fund events. So that's how we're going to pay for, having sandwiches at events. So we will just go ahead and have sandwiches at all of our sandwiches or equivalent. There were a few people that were disappointed that we didn't have Costco pizza, Frank being one of them, because I totally blew it and didn't get any vegetarian sandwiches. That will be a mistake we will not repeat next time. But
Yep, they've got veggie sandwiches. I had one of them last week.
yeah, no. It was just me not thinking when I did it. I was sitting there trying to order on my phone, having gotten the app finally to work, and it just didn't hit me, didn't get through my brain. But yeah, and by the way, just so you guys, Paul Weiss really, went to a couple of Red meetings. There are a couple of things I really like that Red does. They do some regular meetings. They have a place they do the meetings in that's reasonably central in Santa Rosa. I would love to find a facility like that. It's basically, a community center that I don't think has a lot of cost associated with it. But when they do their meetings, they do have yes.
Can you hear me now? My mic, I think I got my mic working.
You do. It's a little soft, but it's working.
Okay, that I can deal with. So I had things to say all along and couldn't say anything.
Uh-oh.
Go, how come nobody's responding? So, okay.
Yeah, but so Paul, I think Paul's done a great job up there. One of the things they have essentially kind of a sales table in that they bring in, they carry with, and they've got donations that get sold off. Quite frankly, unless someone wants to volunteer to do that, and because we've got the auction, I don't think that's really that essential for us. But one of the things they do, and we've tried a couple of times to have a contest and have models, and we haven't had a great turnout. We had a little bit of turnout last time in Alameda, but not a lot. So one of the things they do up in Red is you have an option to bring your model in, display it, and then they have a time where everybody who's brought a model gets up and talks about their model. And it doesn't have to be even a model necessarily that you built. It could be a model you built with your dad, or your dad built and you've repaired, and has great sentimental value, and talk about the sentimental value. And then at the end of that, the audience, everybody who's there votes, and whoever has the best model / story gets, I think it's a $50 gift certificate or something like that to the local hobby shop. So interesting question. Is that of interest? And would people participate? So you're not bringing a model in to be judged per se. It may, like I said, it may very well be that first Lionel train you had that you bring in and just say, this is really cool that I still have the first train that I played with when I was 5 years old. My dad gave me a train, and here it is. It's two questions. Does that sound interesting? Because it seems like everybody enjoys it there. And then I guess the second question is, would anybody participate if we did that?
I just like the way they do it at the RPM, with just a table, but you should always do a write-up that goes with your model, so you don't have to stay there and answer questions all the time.
Right.
I think it has validity, and some people are not good at standing up and speaking spontaneously, and I can't imagine who that would be. But anyway, the deal is that if you set up parameters for the speaking, you might get a better chance of, I don't want a story that went on for 2.5 hours about my father went to the original Lionel distributor in downtown Manhattan, which he did, by the way, and got me a train in post-war, and that's World War I, probably.
Yeah, no, I think it's 30 seconds to a minute kind of thing. It's just a quickie kind of thing. But anyway, by the way, I guess I'm just opening it up as an idea. It's one of those things I thought, we don't have a lot of people bringing models in and engaging. Trying to do it as a contest that doesn't seem to get a lot of people excited as a traditional contest. So I'm thinking maybe this is a more interesting way, because it's kind of lets you bring in that model that was our first model you built, or our first change you built, or Frank can come in and show us his first dead rail engine. And
Phil, Frank, can you hear
yeah
me?
Yes.
Okay, I really like the idea. It's worth trying. We've tried everything to get more over the years.
Frank, we could barely hear you.
Oh,
Yeah, if you click on the right of the little microphone at the bottom, it'll open the audio. There's a thing that's called audio settings. If you open that, you can see your microphone volume.
Okay.
There's a little up arrow to the right of the microphone.
Okay.
And when you click that, at the very bottom thing says audio settings. Click on that. It'll open a big window. And kind of on the right side, the bottom is the microphone.
Okay. How's that?
Even more.
Okay.
That's good. I think that's
Okay.
pretty good.
I like the idea. I think we need to try things. And I don't have any trouble standing up and speaking, but I was a teacher. And I know some people do. But it's worth trying. I think more for just getting up and saying 30 seconds to a minute. I think most people would do that, you know.
Well, when we do the event in February, Larry, that'll be one of the things maybe we'll shoot to try to do is set up an area and have that. And, you know, there we have a little bit of time because what we can do is do the clinics from 10 to noon. And then we can, or, you know, 10 to, and generally things get done a little bit early. We can basically have lunches. I thought the idea of having lunch and then having kind of that little talk while people are having lunch is not a bad idea.
Just to let you know, the first Saturday October is the first Saturday of any month is bad.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it would be, you know, yeah, let me at the end of this, let's just you and I jump on and figure out what's be a good date.
Okay.
And I'll, you know, or I'll send you something for your board meeting. So
Yeah, well, I think in February, see, the museum's closed in February. We spend January through March working on the rail.
oh, okay, cool. Then a Saturday in February probably would work.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it doesn't have to be you know, the trains, everything running and that. It's people are more interested in just kind of having conversations also. So cool. So that was kind of all I had. Like I said, you know, volunteer wise, really do need someone to step forward to be a clerk. We're absent a clerk these days. So having someone step up to be, which basically says that when we have the business meetings and board meetings, which are relatively infrequent, you have to take a few notes. I think that's the primary responsibility, as I can tell, of the clerk. But that's about it. So with that, I think it's kind of open to sharing of modeling, etc. Anyone have anything exciting to share that they've been doing? Oh, it's boring modeling week.
Well, I'll share something, which I don't have anything to physically to show, but about a year ago, there was a guy named George Carpenter. You remember George, Phil?
Yep.
Who gave a talk. So George called me up or emailed me about a month ago saying he had two models from a company I'd never heard of, Tiger Valley Models. Anybody ever heard of them?
No.
Same reaction I got. The models were about 40 years old. They're made of zinc and cadmium cast metal models. And he wanted somebody to paint them for him. These are Elco / Montreal Locomotive Works. As you can see from my background, I'm into Canadian modeling, right? So he asked to see if I could paint them. And what I found fascinating is I always thought research was boring. Like who spends time getting photographs? I mean, reading books, that's all kind of boring, right? So George has, I don't know, 100,000 photos collection. He's got a massive collection of photos, all indexed. It's just amazing. So he starts showing me photos of RS-10s and RS-18s. And so I've dived into this project head first, trying to figure out from the castings he's given me, which variations to make. And I'm just astonished to see, you know, almost every locomotive is distinctive in some way. There's always something special about each one. I've got photographs out here. I'm measuring, you know, I've got to add louvers and file off things to the castings to get the model he wants. And I've got my calipers out trying to measure proportions from a photo and so on. And I just thought I'd share how surprised I was because I never thought I would get into this. But we've been going through color chips to try and figure out what paint was actually used in 1960 for for the there's like 3 different versions of red, orange that CN used back then. Can I get the right paint and so on? So anyway, I just found it fascinating that, because normally my big thing in the hobby is operating, but I never thought I would get into all of the details that you get into trying to actually recreate, a specific model, not just a specific class, but a specific version of a model. They've all got their own unique thing. So anyway, I'm having fun with that. I don't know how long it'll take me to get it done. I'm a little concerned because these castings are 30% cadmium, which is toxic. So in terms of working with cadmium, I'm not sure if I need to be wearing gloves. I've got to, there's oxidation on it. So I've got my little bead blasting box that I want to try and remove some of the oxidization. So I'm concerned about gloves and masks dealing with the cadmium, but it's going to be an interesting project. We'll see how I do. And hopefully I can recreate the 2 models he'd like me to do for him. So anyway, I just thought I'd share it because that's kind of a challenge for me to do something that involved and do that level of research.
Okay, so Charlie, you've done a bunch of the research, and you've documented that, and now you're starting the process of painting the engines.
Well, actually, I'm doing some experimenting because it turns out the model he wants had it's an RS-10 that had dynamic brakes, where the dynamic brakes were in the short hood of the Alco, and so one side of the short hood is all louvers,
right,
in a special pattern. Well, the casting, of course, has no louvers, and so I'm looking at 3 different style of louvers to see which ones he likes. I've used the louver decals in the past to get the pattern, but he's not sure. George isn't sure that those will look right. So I've got different details, and actually probably today, if I have time, I'm going to actually lay out a sheet with the different louvers, each done in the pattern that they need to. Then I'll paint them and I'll share them with George and see which ones he actually thinks look best. So I've got some brass louvers, some plastic louvers, and the louver decals. I'm going to see. I think the louver decals will look fine because I've used those before, but so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm doing experimenting because I want him to be satisfied.
So I guess my comment is take a bunch of pictures.
George,
you have an iPhone. Take a bunch of pictures right now. Like if you're laying those out, take a picture of laying them out before you paint them, after you paint them. If you just take it when you're doing a project like this is for everybody. When you're doing a project like this, we are gifted with the most brilliant communication device in the universe. It's a camera. Just take pictures of everything, and then when you get done, you can do a clinic and talk about painting a cadmium locomotive. And it's kind of one of those things that you're just in such a great position to do it. So just because you're just starting now, you got the research, you can capture that. And so you can talk about that, make that into a couple of slides, what you found out, what the research was, and then go through the steps on painting the locomotive, cleaning it up, painting it, decaling it, etc. And that would make a great clinic. And because if you just take pictures, the beauty is 90% of what we do is visual in pictures. And if you just take your camera and your phone, just take a bunch of pictures, throw them over, you can throw those into a PowerPoint, and it becomes a really easy way to do a clinic or an article for that matter.
Or if you're entering a contest.
Or if you want to enter a contest, if you want to get judged, then you take that information and put it into a document that you put out when you get judged. And this is how I finished this model. And so, it's really,
I'll consider doing that. I just like to bang away at these things and work at a bit at a time. So but documenting is a good idea. My wife has suggested doing that.
George, here's a thought. Jason Schron of Rapido is the ultimate Canadian fan. And if you can somehow get in contact with him, he may have some information or be interested.
Yeah, it's an idea. Actually, what I was going to do is the one problem I'm having that I haven't resolved yet. I don't know if Jason would know, but the problem with these dynamic brakes on the short hood is there are vents on the roof. And I have no photos. Georgia's got tens of thousands of photos of, and hundreds of RS-10s. None of them show a roof. So I can't. I've searched on the internet. I cannot find a photo of the roof of the short hood to see what because I know there are vents on the top, and I don't know what they look like, and I'm trying to figure out how to. At some point, I think I may just put some generic venting material on there and be done, since there's no photos to disprove that what I've done is wrong. But Jason, well, that's interesting. They might have access to that. I don't think they've done an RS-18, but I don't think they've done it like Rapido has done an Alco Montreal Locomotive Work RS-18, as I recall, but they've never done it. Anyway, that's a good suggestion. Thanks, Ken. And Paul Weiss up in Novato is also doing Central Vermont, which they had a lot of. I think they also ran the Montreal Locomotive Work Alcos there as well. He may have. I'm hoping to see him. I'll see him in a couple of weeks and see if he has any information. So anyway, thanks.
There's somewhere I've got a blog by somebody who does Central Vermont, and I'll see if I can get the URL for it and send it to you.
Sure. Anything is good. I appreciate that. Let me just, since no one else is speaking, let me toss something else in. You were talking earlier, Phil, about events and community and bringing people together. And of course, as you know, my thing is operations. And well, you talked about repetition, right? We get together once a month, talk about repeating with the same crew. And all I can say is, most of the fun of operating is the community aspect of it. It's usually the same crew, but you get together and you have fun. So repeating an event isn't necessarily a bad thing if the goal is to get people together and have a good time. And I'm on a bent. I've been working with John and Sydney. We're at Dave Lovelace's last week Saturday. I didn't make the event on Sunday because Sunday is family day for me. But we were talking about doing some clinics as well on introducing people to operations, because a lot of people, attempt operations have an unsatisfactory event, and there's a way to make it simpler.
But the problem, Charlie, with that is much more what you said before than that. It's that people get interested in operations and then they don't get invited to do any operations. Because you've got your group of friends and you're very comfortable with yourselves. It's a closed community, and that layout becomes blocked off. And so what happens very quickly, I mean, it's unfortunately that community doesn't open very well to new people coming in.
That's exactly the point that I've been talking to John and Sydney about. And that is, we're going to work to open Dave Lovelace's layout, make it available to anybody who has never operated, and use it as a place to bring new people in who want to learn how to operate, and open it as much as possible.
Yep. So, and the guys from the OPSIG, they actually created a thing. There was an online place to register operating sessions and that. I mean, I think the idea of, especially folks that are slower on operators or could use a couple more of trying to, I've tried to think about, should we do something like that in the Coast Division? Is there a way of putting something together where people that are interested can express an interest?
Yeah.
And, I think it's that's one of the challenges. Of course, one of the bigger challenges I think we actually have is that to some extent, the number of operating layouts is decreasing. And, and the question is, if the number of operators are not decreasing, then do we actually have a shortage of places to operate?
Well, we do. And that's actually what I want to try and figure out a way to encourage people to, understand that even the smallest layouts can be fun to operate as long as you don't burden yourself. and try to create more layouts for operation. I agree. We've lost Otis McGee, we've lost Dave Parks. Those are two, operating layouts. So we need more. We need to add more to the mix. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, no, I think those are all very interesting discussions. I think, especially at the OPSIG level, I need to talk to those guys about, is there a way to kind of do some things and open up. Now, one of the things is, by the way, my understanding, I believe, is that the Carquinez Club has regular Saturdays that they're open and have operations, and it's kind of drop-in operations for anyone who wants to, in Crockett. So I think that's one option for people to kind of do, go and try running a train. So, cool.
Speaking of John and Sydney, I really want to thank them for last Sunday. They did a terrific job of sort of semi-broadcasting.
Yep.
For those of us who couldn't get there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I actually need to talk to both Jesse and Earl and Seth about is, we did record that last week, and what do we want to do with should we put those up as e-clinics on the Coast website, on the Coast page, YouTube page, or what makes sense? I was trying to think about whether we wanted to use them in one of these Saturday meetings, but I think kind of there are very few people who did anybody not get to go see either the online or the go see the physical last weekend? Did anybody miss it completely? You see, I think almost everybody. Joyce, you didn't get to see it, did you? I didn't. So you weren't there. I think Larry said he wasn't. So I think the question is, you guys just have to let me know if it makes sense to actually play one of those in this Saturday, one of these Saturday events in the future. My thought process is it probably doesn't, but I think it probably does. And Jesse, coming back to your comment, one of the big advantages of recording those, if we put them up on the YouTube channel, is that then somebody who is interested in small layouts, who's not necessarily even in the United States, can go see it. And that's a great way of basically disseminating information. So
is there any reason
I'll ask,
why wouldn't we post them on the NMRA-X website if they're
because
decent?
the NMRA-X guys don't want content that they haven't done themselves, and they're very parochial.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and as somebody who's done a number of them on the NMRA-X, it's a pain in the butt. People can't find it once they put it on there. So
I was that's too bad, because I was thinking that they're, I like the idea of promoting what we do in our area, more broadly across the club. But if NMRA-X is being that difficult, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the questions for both Jesse and Earl and Seth is, we also can offer those to John and Sydney to put up on their YouTube channel, which gets a much broader dissemination than ours does. So
Phil,
that's another option.
Phil, we could also let Gordy know about our site and have him put it in the newsletter that he sends out.
That's true too.
So
that'd
be, and I'm sure he would be willing to.
That's true.
I've run across a group up in the Midwest, Minnesota or so forth, that does regular operating sessions and puts them up on their own YouTube.
Yep. Well, that the Minnesota has those two ideal drivers of model railroading.
Cheap housing in basements.
Everybody has a basement.
Their basements and lousy winter weather. Right? So you have a reason to be in your basement for 6 months. I mean, COVID had no impact there whatsoever. They were already in their basements. Yes, sorry, Joyce.
As far as getting younger people into our hobby, for several years I've suggested sharing our newsletter with the Bay Area Garden Railroad Society baggers. They have lots of families with young children, and if we offered sharing our newsletter and they share theirs with us, I think
Absolutely.
if we offered classes for kids at each meeting, and it could just start with a simple little 20-minute, half-hour class for kids, and publicized it with baggers, I think there's a good chance we could attract a good number of younger people, and they're younger, so they would drive further. I mean, I don't drive that far anymore. Neither do a lot of the people in the NMRA, because we're an older group. And I wonder if that has been done. Has our newsletter been shared mutually?
Well, I think there's two questions there. I mean, one is, has the newsletter been shared? I don't think we've done that. I mean, we're putting together a newsletter. There's kind of the PCR newsletter that goes out. We're doing a new version of the Coast newsletter that Bob's putting together. We're going to try to get that together and make it more regular. I don't think there's any problem with sharing that with the baggers community, and there's absolutely no problem sharing the baggers newsletter over to our community.
One of the things, I get everybody's newsletter, it seems, independently, and I'm a member of the garden group also. I think we should think about, if we were going to place something or share something, put together what might be called an advertisement, just a little something that's not that terribly big, and just to think, you're invited to the Model Railroad event. We're going to have a class particularly for kids or whatever, and it's going to be in Alameda. Done. And send it to the newsletter editors, or to Bagger's editor, or to, our friends, Joyce, we know who they are. And they would probably be more than thrilled to just more content, put it into and nobody's going to read, as much as we love you, nobody's going to read the whole Coast email newsletter. Not a garden person.
Well, I think the thing that we need to think about is what would we like to do with the baggers people? I mean, what we would like the baggers people to do is to come to our events. That I think that would be great. And so, to me, it's kind of a two-step, question. I mean, there's a question that's an interesting question, which is, Joyce, I haven't thought about doing this, is going to the baggers event and talking to them about, are they interested in being NMRA members? Because I don't know that we have I think the Venn diagram overlap is less than we might think between those
by
two.
a lot.
And, and so the question is, are there baggers members that would find what they could get being an NMRA member to be an advantage? So that's kind of
a cheap and easy way of finding that out is sharing the newsletter, because
right.
those people, and I think they often ask me about the NMRA, and they are looking for a little more information. So
right.
That would be, and I've suggested it for years, and unfortunately, I don't have the time or the capability of knowing how to share our newsletter. But I think it would be a simple beginning, and then maybe even advertising to our Coast members. Is there anybody who wants to give a class to kids and take over that? Because there may well.
I mean, I think that's a question that's nothing. That's a secondary question to baggers, which is, do we want to try to do as part of our events, or separately, a youth engagement activity? And I think that's a separate question altogether. We need to think about, you know, the challenge with that is it takes people that have a very specific focus. So, you know, it's very interesting. I was at the narrow gauge convention, which was in Pittsburgh, and outside of Pittsburgh, there's a club, and I'm trying to remember what the name was. It was a funny named club, and went there, and basically they're in a community center building, and their layouts are. Yeah, I'm gonna play you guys a video. I just want to show this. This is to me what it takes to engage kids, and I actually don't think we really have that capability. But let me see if I can find the right video here. Hang on. I think it's this one. Yeah. So then tell me about the layout.
My name is Ethan.
Hi, Ethan.
This is an O-gauge layout. There's O and 3 here.
O and 30 in the middle? Or O and 3?
O and 3, the narrow gauge.
Yep.
This is the general. This is the inner. This is the outer. There's actually a point here, and it goes across and goes to here.
Oh, wow.
And then there's this bridge here that can come out and go in, and then it would go all the way around here to service the
Oh,
cell.
you put that piece in and it goes all the way around. Wow. Is this your favorite railroad?
Yeah, this is my favorite one. It's not based on any Pacific.
But it's big. That's why you all like O-scale, because it's big.
So here's the main station. Here's the middle station over there.
Yep. Wow.
There's the transfer station for the O gauge and the narrow gauge.
Yep.
Here's a big town. I'm getting the general up and running the engine over there. Getting running. This one, it's not working right now. If it was, I would run it.
That's good.
There's a yard up here. There's a central boost over here, and there's a dynamo actually here.
Anyway, I'll stop it there. So these guys have basically like 7 layouts. They have a big HO layout. They have a G scale G layout. They have that O layout, and they have another room with a couple of 3 different HO layouts. And they have kids. They have like 30 kids, and like half of them are under high school age. And there were two young guys there with their moms that were there operating the layout and really engaged. And I think, you know, the more I thought about it after having gone there, my thought is that that's almost what it takes, you know, to have that engagement. It's not the one-time thing, it's the real kind of major thing. And unfortunately, I don't think we have that anywhere in the Bay Area. You know, it was almost a club that was dedicated to kids. So you almost have to want to do that as a function. So I guess, Joyce, coming back to it, you know, the question is, if we have someone who is excited enough and has the time to put together a program, I think it'd be great. The place I would do it, by the way, is I wouldn't do it at our events. We actually have an opportunity, and this is something I haven't talked about. I needed to do it now that our September event is over. The Great Train Show, which is in December on the 14th and 15th, we can have, if we want, a little bit of space to be able to do a clinic or two. So we could do a clinic there that was, you know, we could do one that was getting started in model railroading. Could do one that, because there you can do kind of beginner clinics, or do a clinic on basic scenery, or, you know, building your first kit or something like that. So if anybody's interested in doing a clinic like that, you know, and coming to the Great Train Show, let me know. Because basically it's 2 days. It's a Saturday and Sunday in Pleasanton. It's the 14th and 15th of December. But, you know, we have a space there. We can do a couple of just basic clinics, and, you know, You know, what are the components of a model railroad? So again, the challenge is somebody's got to step up and want to do it. So I'll put that in the next newsletter as well, that we have that opportunity. I think that's a great place to engage both with kids, because we go to a train show, we try to engage with people to get members, which is not kids. But if we're going to do like a webinar, seminar or something, we can do something that is more engaging to kids. Yeah, Joyce, you had something you were saying?
Do you know Jeff? He's a teacher, and Jeffrey Allen. He's a teacher in Oakland at the Park Day School. He has a program that he's already done for kids in his classrooms with trains and mathematics. And he makes it so exciting. He's turned out lots of kids that love trains. He might be, at last I knew, he was a member of NMRA. I don't know if he still is, but
what was his name? Hang on.
Jeffrey Allen, Jeffallen.
Yes, he is.
So if you can contact him or include him in your, he might be a perfect person to do something. But just sharing the newsletter, it would be so easy.
Well, no, it is. So to be honest, we haven't had a newsletter for quite a while. Because what we've had is just the Coast Extra. Because if you look at it, the Coast Extra kind of is more of an information thing. Yeah. And we haven't, what else do you put in a newsletter? You put in a newsletter kind of, here's what we did the last event. We put those in the PCR newsletter. The other thing we need if we want to do a newsletter is, people have to actually write an article or two. And getting articles written has been a challenge.
Well, I think your Coast newsletter is wonderful. Could you share that with baggers?
Yeah, but certainly
is all you'd have to do. I think it'd be fairly simple. And then at least
and people are welcome to come on here and meet people and figure it out. My hope is that we create an environment here that people want to be members of. That's kind of the whole thing, because it's I was looking at the $68 membership, and it's a chunk of money. On the other hand, in modeling, it's not much. It's one car. So, there's two ways of looking at it. It's either a lot of money, or it's relative to so many other things, it's not a lot. So
you also know about the grouper thing, right, Phil?
The the PCR group IO?
No. Is it grouper? I think it's grouper.
Group IO. Groups IO.
No. It's a service offered through the healthcare, right? The argument, I think it's good. I have to look it up now. If I got the name wrong.
The one
yeah. But most people, if you're 65 or older on Medicare, I think this is a great idea. It's kind of preventive or preemptive healthcare, right? If you're in a community, in a hobby, they'll pay your membership fees. So I just sent my receipt for $68, and they sent me a check.
If you've got Medicare Advantage.
No, got nothing to do with that.
Which one did you do it? Which one did you do it through?
Now we're getting into Medicare, but with my part B happens to be United Healthcare.
Oh, okay.
I don't have an Advantage, and United Healthcare was one of their.
And they actually paid it. Okay.
I just said, they said, tell us who your healthcare provider is, and we'll see. I sent in United Healthcare. They said, yep, they approve, and they paid and sent me a check. So. It shouldn't be a burden for anybody. For those of us ancient types, it shouldn't be a financial burden.
I hate to say it, when I look around the room there, and when we were in Santa Clara, the number of people paying insurance, I could have counted on one regular insurance. I think I could have counted on one hand.
I know.
And you look around this screen here, how many folks here are not on Medicare? So it really is true. I mean, it's well, anyway, so I think it was, I guess my kind of perspective, like I said, I think it was a successful event. Need to order the sandwiches earlier, so the sandwiches are available when the clinics end. I think having Frank in the back and doing the clinic in the back was good. Having David do that clinic. One of the things really looking for next year is someone to step up and do a backroom clinic. And it actually could be something interesting that, if there's interest, we could do a build along clinic. Either Jer has done one with trees. That would be one I could ask him to do. Or we could do some sort of a small structure build along where, and that, because what you could do, the beauty of where we are is you could start at 10 o'clock, work from 10 to noon, take a break from noon to 12:30, 12:45, let things dry, and then do an hour and a half in the afternoon. So you actually could have 4 hours, and you can actually build some interesting models in 4 hours. So I don't know if there's interest in that. Yeah, Jim, go for it.
I've actually put together one time a build along clinic that we actually gave about 4 years ago on paper models. And I've been kind of going through the paper stuff again lately.
Yep.
And there's actually one channel on YouTube called Chanwell, and he's got some really good paper techniques for N scale. I'm pretty good on paper on O scale, but N scale I wasn't happy with my buildings yet. But this guy's pretty genius, so I was going to put together a clinic on it.
That would be. I mean,
That's a build along clinic.
Paper's a nice build along because the cost of the kit is fairly low if you pick the right kit.
It can be free, actually.
Well, that's what I mean. That's kind of the problem is if you pick a model, and it has a $15 or $20 cost, people have to pay that in advance. You got to buy some of them and all that. If it's a paper model, you just say we're going to have 6 and you print 6 of them, and those folks are ready for them. So, yeah, if Jim, if that makes sense, we could shoot to do that. It's a year, right? We're not going to go back to the South Bay. The South Bay is where we have that back boardroom that has about 8 seats in it. So we limit it to 8 people. It's first 8 to come, and you can do, like I said, you can do it as actually 2 chunks. Do it in the morning, take a break, and do it in the afternoon. Because again, probably in the future, we're just gonna have a couple of layouts open in the afternoon, so you could even work until 3 and still probably see the layouts by 5 if you wanted to. So that'd be great. I will put that down in my notes to myself of things for next year.
And also for me, it's a very convenient place to go to because, if I'm not up to driving, I can take the train.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it was interesting when we were there on Sunday last week. There was both a 49ers game and I think there was a Giants game going on. So we had basically both sets of fans on the station platform getting on to go north. So anyway, well, that's probably
new trains too. So
I did have one I'll share real quickly. I'm not getting a lot of modeling done, but I'm actually my better half is traveling this next week and a half. So this is basically where I have a game room that I'm rebuilding into a fixed layout with some modules. The dark green are the modules I already have. The light green are the modules I'm building. So the first module that's a fixed module, so these are not designed to ever leave the room, is this one here. So it's about 8 feet long and about 4 feet wide at the max, a little bit more than 8 feet long. So let me get over here and do this. So basically this is the process of taking a sheet of plywood and some 1x6s, because I'm building something that doesn't need to move. So what I've done is I've actually built a box here, and these are the templates from Fast Tracks. I use the number 5 template, or number 5 ON30 turnout. And so what I've done is I've actually generated those into printable templates that are exactly the right size. And you can just cut those out and lay those out. And that lets you lay out all your turnouts pretty easily where they're going to be. And then I use a red grease pencil to mark what the actual tracks are that come out of that. I was actually dropping an area. You'll see this. So I've laid out the track locations, and then I've dropped an area there because I'm going to have a dropped area with some water in it. So you kind of see cutting that. kind of getting the dimensions where things go right. And so this is basically, you can go from putting these down and attaching them. The red lines that I put in there, I put in PowerPoint before I printed these, allow you to line things up pretty easily and get everything aligned. And then that transfers into being essentially, the designs for the layout on the layout. And so this is basically what it looks like now. I actually decided you'll notice the little error here. Nobody will ever notice, but I decided I wanted this track to be closer to the edge. So I ended up adding a little piece of wood here and extended this over a little bit. This area is going to be lowered and there'll be some water down here. There's actually water in the module that goes over here, and then it'll come up and there'll be a station here. This will be a beat loading platform and some buildings out here. From an operational perspective, there are about 14 spots on this piece, on this area. So it's kind of designed to be mainly an operational area. And so it's kind of a couple of views of it from this perspective. And then this is basically the other side. So what I did was I basically notched these. So these are continuous pieces of wood, all both this way and this way, with the idea that I can put legs. These back sides here will be connected to the wall, and there'll be legs here and here to support it. So I think you could get up and dance on it, quite frankly. So kind of some views of what it looks like. So I'm going to put a clinic together about kind of going back to that concept, Charles, of, documenting. That's what I'm trying to do, is try to remember and take pictures of stuff as I do it. So I'll eventually be able to do a clinic of what the steps were of going through. So I've ordered the home bed, and I'm now starting to build the turnouts and the fast track jigs. I'll take a few pictures of that and go through kind of the steps of how I use that. But that's something that's pretty well documented online, so I probably won't spend a lot of time on it.
Are you going to do manual throws for the turnouts, or are you going to automate them?
No, I'm going to automate them, and actually that's the other thing I'm playing with. I'll show you this. See, what's the best place to see it? Let me show it to you here. So, hang on, I get the right one here. So let me want to share my screen, share a different screen here. So this is my this is actually what I'm going to do for a control panel. So this is actually in sorry, I got to get rid of you guys a little bit. You're blocking things here. So this is actually in FreeCAD. So this is a control panel. It's about 4.5 inches this way and about 6 inches this way. And so if you actually look at it, what you'll see is that that's the same kind of track plan you would have seen right here. If you looked at this from this point. So the problem I have is that the turnouts are way back here and the operators are way over here. You can get to where the cars are over here to do a coupling and uncoupling, but you can't really reach the turnouts. And really what you'd like to be able to do is run all those turnouts either from here or from here. So it turns out when we were at that DARE club, the one with the kids, they had a room and they were selling a bunch of stuff, and I got 4 2-port switch it modules. Essentially, they were part of something that another guy bought, and I got them for free. So I've got 8 turnouts. If you look at the 2 that are over here, there are 2 over here on this module, not including these on here. These are already done. And there are 6 over here. So what I'm going to do is put those on, and those work with a push button. And then I've got it set up so I'll get a red and green LED. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to make these as 3D printed panels. And so basically you know, the way this looks, this is the layout. These are the turnouts. I want to do a little bit of work right here. I've just changed this. This, you know, this one's a crossover. This is a turnout, and these will be the LEDs. These are sized for 5mm LEDs. And so the way it's basically done is that, you know, it's a 2mm plastic panel that you print. I've actually got one downstairs that was the prototype first version I printed of these. And then, you know, after you print it, I guess you probably see it better like this. All this stuff is raised by 1mm that's on top of that. So when you get done printing it, then it's easy to color it. And you've got the background. I'm trying to decide what color the background should be. And then all of the lettering, all the track planning is raised. And you just got a push button to push here for each of the turnouts. So
those are the large circles is the push buttons, right?
Yeah, the larger circles are the push buttons. The smaller circles are the LEDs. Yeah, so if you look at a specific turnout, this is going to be just one of those little red push buttons, and this will be you know, 2 LEDs. You do a red green LED, and you wire them with the cathodes wired together, put a resistor on them, and then they turn red green back and forth. And because I've got 2 of them on 2 locations and the turnout motor, I'm actually going to put a little relay module on the output of the switch it. Switch it's only can handle about 35 milliamps. So if you want to have 2 sets of LEDs, and you want to have the switch motor and a tortoise, because the LEDs draw about 15 milliamps each, you're right at the limit. So my decision is, you can buy these little relays for $1.20. You put 12 volts on them, and then you have, you know, you actually have full 12-volt power to run the LEDs and the turnouts. So I'll go through when I get done with it, I'll have all the design stuff. But with those panels, the nice thing about those panels, once you get them printed, once you get the design done, and here I'll show you. So basically, the way I've designed this is, because on the print bed, you only get about 6 inches or 8 inches across the print bed, and I want it bigger than that. The way it's actually designed is there's actually 2 of these, and this one's actually not done, so it doesn't have all the holes in it yet. But this is the other side. So, you know, if you look at the actual design here, oh, hang on. And you kind of have to look about that you're looking at this from the side, looking this way at it from this guy's position right here. You've got basically a turnout over here. You've got a passing siding in the back there, some switches up here and over here. And so if you look at that, what I'm doing is essentially creating that in 2 3D panels. That was the first design. You know, this is coming from the left. You know, you have a turnout. Then you have the turnouts that go to the creamery and and then you come to the other side, and that continues over to the things that are over there. So the idea is you got 2 of those little panels. I thought about trying to do an electronic panel. The problem is, the minute you do an electronic panel, it's got to talk to something, and you need to have computers and all that. The beauty of this stuff is it just turns on, and also all the turnouts now have a DCC accessory address. So it's a pretty neat way to do it. And like I said, the price was right for the modules I bought. Is that kind of stuff interesting to folks?
Well, I find it interesting, but then I'm kind of an electronics geek too. So I'm always interested in how that stuff goes. But
anyway.
Well, I've got to wrap. It's a little after 10, so I'm going to disappear, and I think we're pretty much wrapped up for today, I think.
Cool. So we're going to go be together again in 2 weeks. Everybody have a great 2 weeks. Enjoy. Joyce, I like the idea. We think about a summer thing. It may be interesting to think about. You know, I've been trying to think about where's the right place to do something. That could be an interesting thought process.
I think your program, your newsletter is wonderful newsletter. It's always well divided. It's easy to read. If you could just send that to the people at Baggers, to the people in charge at Baggers.
Well, send whoever does that an email.
Years.
And and send to me and them and just say, hey, can you guys get together? I have no problem with forwarding it to somebody at Baggers. I, you know, I got to think about, we got to think about how much we extend the benefits of membership in the NMRA from a local perspective. Because, again, my belief is that most of the benefits of membership are local. Um, the reality is if you're not an NMRA member, you still get standards. You can still go look at NMRX. You can't go to the convention, though I think you can actually go to the Novi convention even if you're not a member now. So, the real reason for joining the NMRA is, to me, all the local value that you get.
I agree.
And the question is, how do we engage with the Baggers people without people feeling like, oh, I'm getting invited to all the meetings anyway, or doing all the events anyway? So, that would be the only thing that we have to figure out is, from a Baggers perspective, to say, hey, you're more than welcome to come to, a couple of these, but if you want to come regularly, we're going to ask you to join and be a member. That's probably and by the way, the question there, it's an interesting question. Probably need to have the conversation, to say, because, the difference between Baggers and the NMRA is Baggers is a local organization, right? So you join it locally and the benefit is local of you joining it predominantly. Where the NMRA, the predominant financial benefit of membership doesn't come to the local organization.
Not true, Phil. Baggers is a part of a national group, just like the NMRA is. And to me, the feedback that we would get, and people do join when they feel an investment in a group, they do join. So I feel like
so you don't join Baggers?
Finish my sentence, please.
Okay.
Sometimes our negativity keeps us from growing. And I think we could grow if we could start. If that becomes a problem and people are coming free and stuff like that, we can deal with that later. But at least to invite them, because
no, I agree. I mean, I'm just thinking through that may be an issue. I mean, so this is the question is, and I was trying to think about this. If I'm a member of Baggers, does that give me access to the local, let's just express an extreme viewpoint. Say, okay, if you're a Baggers member, you're going to get invited to come to any of the local NMRA events. If you're an NMRA member, you're going to get invited to go to any of the Baggers events you want to.
And there could be some way to make membership, but that can come
well
later.
I can't I can't do a membership thing because that's national. That's the problem. So because I thought Baggers was more you joined Baggers, not a national organization, and then you were part of Baggers. But I think the point is, I think it's easy to say, let's tell them about our events, invite them to come. I think we need to be cognizant of that relationship. We just need to think about that, right? If you're a Baggers member, you're entitled to come to all the NMRA events locally. Or are we inviting them to come and see if they like it and would like to decide to become an NMRA member? Those are kind of two different intents of getting together. And I think, and I haven't thought about those, but I think you need to be very careful to make sure that people kind of have some level of understanding, especially at an organizational level, about what we as groups are agreeing to.
And I agree with you. But I think we can simply do that by the badges, wearing badges. There are simple ways to make sure that after we get some interest from them,
right.
both, and I think there would be a lot of people in that group, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of money, and they would be happy to join both. And then there's the but I think that's something we can control.
I think, I agree with you 100%. I think we can come back to it. I think the first question is, making Baggers aware of events that we're doing, right? Whether it is, a physical event, a virtual event, and inviting them to come and participate as guests, I think is a very reasonable thing to do virtually immediately. And if I have someone that's there, I'd be more than happy to invite them. Now, the first event we're doing in the near term is going to be our auction, which the auction obviously has some limitations on it. But when we do, the spring event, whatever you want to call it, in February, I mean, I think inviting folks to that and to the South Bay or a field trip, absolutely. Cool. No, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great way to get polarization. We just need to figure out and think about kind of what the long-term relationship is. I mean, there's part of me that says, hey, we want to encourage people to join organizations, whether it's the NMRA or baggers. So you just open up events both ways. But that has certain ramifications need to think about. So cool. I'm going to bid everybody adieu. My son is coming over, so I need to jump off. So you all have a good one. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you for all you do, Phil.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Bye now.